As our family home aged, my husband and I discussed building a new house. With our son married and moved out, we were considering a new chapter in our lives. However, little did I know.
Hey, you know what? Let us move into the brand new house. And not just any house, but one luxurious house. Plus, we will have someone to take care of the household chores. So we can really live it up and enjoy a life of luxury.
I ended up being told something that made me feel like they were treating me like a servant. However, what they heard was a misunderstanding, and they don't seem to realize the terrible consequences that await them if they were to follow through with such a thing. My name is Eleanor. My husband is in a civil engineering industry, but he doesn't deal with architectural projects like houses. His main focus is on large-scale projects such as building bridges and erecting steel towers on mountains. So even after getting married, it became a routine for my husband to be completely fine with not coming home for about a month when he had a major construction project in a distant location. That's because he stays overnight in nearby hotels or cottages while working there. I have one son named Robert. Because of my husband's job, I have been raising my son in an environment that is almost like that of a single mother, putting in a lot of effort. Even so, I think I rarely complained or showed weakness in order to support my husband, who is working so hard and putting his life on the line. While handling household chores, I also took care of our son, ensuring everything was neat and prepared for my husband's return, with dinner ready for him to eat and a place to rest. Upon returning home, my husband would always express his appreciation, saying,
I'm grateful for my wife.
and
I'm sorry for causing you trouble and hardships.
he would show his appreciation to me. Those words truly made me happy, and I'm always the one grateful to my husband. He works diligently, is well liked by his colleagues, and earns a good salary, which is how we are able to build such a wonderful and lovely home. It's safe to say that among the houses in the neighborhood, ours stands out quite a bit. It has a spacious yard and a decent number of rooms. All of this can be attributed to my husband's achievements. Gradually, through his hard work and mental strength, he has become a leader within the company. And while giving his subordinate a hard time, he seems to be showing reliable leadership. Though things were going smoothly, I never expected him to go all the way and take over as the company's president. But amidst this lifestyle, where I had to manage the household on my own, there was one thing that worried me. It was my son Robert. I had this feeling that he might be a bit more selfish compared to other children. In our daily life, I managed almost everything on my own, and I haven't been strongly influenced by my husband's masculine traits. Usually, when my husband is at home, he might say something strict if our son misbehaves or does something wrong. But even when he occasionally comes back, my husband himself doesn't seem to scold Robert too harshly. I think I also lack the strength to be strict, especially since he is our only son. While Robert wasn't completely unruly, I thought he lacked patience and could easily let his emotions run loose. The rebellious phase lasted for a long time, and there were days when I had to endure not uncommon verbal abuse from him. At that time, I certainly felt exhausted as well. However, even with such a son, I secretly hope that he will grow up and find a good woman once he turns 25 and becomes a working adult. Since he still has a bit of childishness in him, I had been hoping for a more mature woman to appear in his life. It seems my wish came true as he happily got married. I understand it might be difficult to say this while hoping for it, but I couldn't help thinking in a peculiar way as a parent that even a son like him could get married properly. If I were to make one request, it would be about Julia, the woman who became my son's wife, and her personality. In that particular aspect, it's quite different from what I had in mind. She can't use polite language much, or you could say there's a lack of moral standards. Even when she came to give her wedding greetings, She didn't look particularly well groomed. Rather, she seems to be dressed in casual attire. It would not be an exaggeration to ask if they were heading to a local convenience store. And when she entered this house, "Wow, Robert, your family must be seriously rich, right?" She said it in such a loud voice. Hearing that, I couldn't help but feel exasperated. They say birds of a feather flock together, and I couldn't help but feel a bit down, wondering if similar types to Robert naturally gravitate towards him. I might be old-fashioned in my thinking, but couldn't help wondering if, since my husband and I were present at the scene, they could at least fake politeness in their speech and attitude. Just then, my husband seems to notice my feelings.
Well, they're still young, so it can be helped,"
he whispered softly. However, that's when Robert responded to Julia's remark, saying,
"But this house is quite old. It would be a waste of kindness to give that much praise."
or they both burst into laughter. I couldn't help but frown at their behavior. Don't they realize it was a rude comment? They are now married and should be adults, so it's not our place to meddle or say anything anymore. They have rented an apartment and are living together, and my husband and I have discussed how we will spend our time. However, things don't always go as planned. Robert and Julia have started showing up at our family home quite frequently. However, even though they do, it's not like they have any significant business here. Just when I thought I got a call from Robert,
"We've run out of rice, so could you prepare some food? 2 portions, please."
it turns out they just came to have a meal. Moreover, they take our rice home with them. What surprised me even more was that they brought their laundry to our house and said,
"We were too busy with work to do it ourselves. You have plenty of free time, right, Mom?"
I never expected they would even make me do their laundry. It is disappointing that despite us buying furniture and appliances for them when they moved out, they don't seem to be making much use of them. What's more, while I was reluctantly doing their laundry, they helped themselves to drinks from the fridge without asking. Julia didn't seem the least bit apologetic. Moreover, they even helped themselves to refills of beer without asking. When I saw them doing that, I couldn't help but say, "Those are for your father when he comes home. Show a little restraint. If you have time to do that, you can at least do your own laundry," I said, intending to be a bit stern for the first time in a while. But they simply respond as if it's natural, saying things like,
"Then just buy more when you go shopping. Stop making a fuss over beer. Didn't we say we were tired from work? We are different than you, who just lays around at home."
Julia joins in too. "That's right. Besides, it's more lively when we are here, isn't it? As a way of thanking us, they should at least offer us some beer." And so, they were selfishly justifying their demands. However, when my husband is home, they don't do that. It's possible that Robert hasn't had much time to bond with his father, so he might find it difficult to be affectionate to depend on his father. And if that's the case with Robert, it seems like Julia is also holding back her usual selfishness. At that moment, I could also feel the silent pressure from both of them directed at me.
"Please don't mention the fact that we always help ourselves to the beer."
They give me a look as if to say just that. Ultimately, it appears they are aware of their wrongdoing, but their desires overpower them, leading them to act in such a manner. Well, of course, I don't say it directly, at least not here and now. But sometimes, when I talk to my husband on the phone, I tell him everything. Still, my husband.
"Well, it's fine to let them enjoy some beer. But if they cause any trouble for you, even though they are our son and daughter-in-law, I won't forgive them,"
he replied with tolerance and laughter. I guess Robert still feels that it's normal for me to handle all the housework, since I've been doing it ever since he was a child. But I also want to tell Julia that now it's different, and she shouldn't rely on me anymore. However, despite that, their behavior hasn't changed, and they continue to come back to our house for even minor things, asking for favors. And as they continue to show their lazy behavior little by little, I started to feel fed up as well. I was thinking of discussing it with my husband, but just then, his company received a major project. It's a big, long-term project to build a large dam at the core of a certain mountain. With my husband already under pressure and busy with future plans, I shouldn't complain about household chores anymore, right? I decided to hold back my feelings and just continue taking care of everything. I decided to embrace the attitude of accepting and indulging in the way they come to me for help. However, at that moment, I was told something that made me doubt my ears. I thought Julia had said something again. "Hey Mom, I heard something the other day. You are building a pretty luxurious mansion, right? It's like a birth of a new family home, isn't it?" For a moment I thought, why is she bringing up that topic? But indeed, the other day when my husband was back home.
Indeed, as Robert mentioned, his house has become quite old. Since we are at it, why not consider buying a new house?
It's true that we were talking about this. Although we were talking in a room where they weren't present, I never expected Julia to overhear us so clearly. Moreover, Julia continued the conversation, looking excited. She now glanced at both of us. "And what's more, did you say it was $900,000? Wow, Robert, your dad is really filthy rich. He even handed over his checkbook to your mom. He told her to take care of all the procedures, thinking it's her money. And from what I heard, he actually gave her the checkbook. In other words, you're definitely becoming super wealthy now, Mom." They were talking about such things and getting all excited right in front of me. But I can't deny the content, because what they were talking about is true. Moreover, the other day, my husband,
What's happening with the house matter?
I was asked, and I replied, it's scheduled to be completed next month. She probably heard that too. However, just because that's the case, it still has nothing to do with them as a couple. But Julia said something truly unbelievable. "If that's the case, let's move into that house from next month. Isn't it amazing? We can live in a $900,000 palace." They just arbitrarily decided without consulting me. I couldn't help but blurt out, "Eh?" But even Robert sided with Julia, and
Well, yeah, Dad is probably not going to be home much due to work. Mom will take care of all the household chores. We will have an incredibly comfortable life.
they were both ecstatic as they said that, even though they decided such a thing between the two of them. I also have something to say, but they were so caught up in their excitement that they didn't even listen to me. "So, from starting next month, take good care of us, okay? Make sure to fill the fridge with plenty of beer. We might as well quit our jobs." I can clearly see that they are trying to treat me like a servant. Now that things have come to this point, I have no choice but to consult with my husband. However, when I conveyed that, I thought my husband would say he would talk to Robert and Julia, but instead,
So, that's what they said, huh? Well, if they want to live there that badly, we can let them.
he said. Upon hearing that, I couldn't help but retort that he was being overly lenient. I don't understand why he's trying to spoil them so much. Moreover, when I added, they were even saying things that seemed like they wanted to exploit me. My husband continued the conversation calmly.
That's right. That's why I'm letting them live there. If you want, I can even arrange for someone to pick them up from their current apartment. I will let them know we'll transport them to the mansion.
After quietly telling me that, he later explained the intention behind those words. Upon hearing it, I understood. When I conveyed exactly what my husband had said about picking them up at a later date, They reacted with excitement and enthusiasm. Seriously? Your dad is seriously something. He's even hiring for such convenient services. That's amazing. I wonder if I can also use those servants. They were getting overly excited and making a lot of noise. But by next month, their excitement would inevitably die down. Although, I doubt they've even considered such a possibility. As it turned out, the luxurious mansion was completed as planned the following month. And as they were told, our car was waiting at the apartment for their use and took them to the mansion. But I would not have known at the time that the drivers were actually people who work for my husband. It seems that the two of them have really quit their jobs. They must be thinking they will have a much better life than they ever imagined. Well, to be honest, that works out pretty well for us. That night, I received a call from Julia, and it felt quite unnatural. Seeing that, I thought, looks like she's starting to experience reality. However, I continued to ignore the call. They need to learn the foolishness of their own ideas. However, it seems they were quite anxious. I have been continuously ignoring their calls, and believe it or not, they've called me more than 30 times. By the way, I believe you already know, but I'm not living in that luxurious mansion. Let me explain. So, what exactly is that mansion where Robert and Julia are? It's not our new home. Rather, it's a place my husband is using for his upcoming big project. In a way, it's a communal residence for the employees. It's located at the heart of a large mountain, and it's part of a considerable long-term plan. The distance is not something everyone can easily commute, so my husband proposed building a house where everyone can live together. That's because it costs $900,000, so it's a considerably spacious house. That's right. Since there are always more than 20 physically strong employees, we have prepared enough rooms for them. We have also made arrangements with a superior to deliver truckloads of food every week. By the way, the checkbook I received is company property, not a personal one. I didn't mention it earlier, but when my husband became the president, I became his secretary in title. So using the checkbook is perfectly normal for me. After a considerable amount of time, Robert and Julia found themselves in a lavish mansion, which could be described as Robert's domain among the men. However, once there, despite being forced to help with extremely strenuous manual labor, they ended up being assigned to handle domestic chores and were deemed unhelpful. However, since the two of them had never done household chores in the first place.
Hey, how much time are you wasting on cleaning? Hurry up! And none of the dirt is coming off. Are you both slow in the head and blind? What's this terrible meal? How can you even cook something this awful?
It seems they were continuously subjected to such verbal abuse. It seems they are already physically and mentally worn out on the first day. But there is no other choice. My husband warned them that he won't forgive them if they cause any trouble for me. They probably want to escape from there as soon as possible. But my husband seems to be relentless.
If you want to escape, go ahead and try. If you can get away, that is.
That's right. It took them over 3 hours by car to finally reach that house. Moreover, the area is surrounded by mountains. If they were to consider walking down these mountains, it would easily take an entire day. Furthermore, the land continues to be desolated for a while, making escape an impractical idea. Therefore, they have no choice but to stay in that house, even though they are completely worn out. But there's nothing we can do, right? They said they wanted to live on their own. If they hadn't eavesdropped on our conversation, it wouldn't have come to this. According to my husband, the two of them said these things.
This wasn't supposed to happen. This is so absurd. What kind of mansion is this? It's nothing but hell.
While Robert was saying this with tears, surprisingly Julia exclaimed, "That woman! She set us up! It's infuriating! Why won't she answer her phone?" Apparently, They had a completely baffling interpretation of me deceiving them. Well, that's right. I wouldn't answer the phone. I wouldn't. I ignored them and even canceled my current phone. I was getting too many calls, and it was getting to be too much of a hassle. In any case, Robert and Julia have nowhere left to escape to. Instead of them bossing me around, they found themselves being bossed around. That's how it seems, at least. Now, about my whereabouts. I can confirm that I did buy a new house, and I'm currently there. I also put the old house up for sale. The new place is a cozy single-family house nearby, and the price is quite reasonable, I'd say. As for me, cleaning must be quite challenging in a large house, especially as we get older. When I said this to my husband,
Yeah, maybe we should go for a smaller newly built house. We don't really need something this big. It will suffice.
With that, we decided on a simple small house. I suppose Julia might have misunderstood as she mixed up the conversation about our actual new house and the talk about the grand mansion being built by the company. Actually, I was handling both discussions simultaneously. But anyway, by the time I realized, it was already too late, and that's the result. Even before that, the idea of living freely and comfortably in someone else's mansion that they didn't build themselves just seems outright strange. As my husband thinks, it would be good if they reflect on their actions thoroughly. With our home now of just the right size to live comfortably, household chores have become easier, and we are enjoying a comfortable life. However, to be ready for my husband's return anytime, I still make sure the room is tidy and the beer is chilled. Sometimes, when my husband comes back, I ask him, "Do you plan to come back with Robert and Julia?" To which he responds,
It's still too early. At least, if they can handle the cleaning, laundry, and when they can cook properly, then we can consider it. Until then, when I come back, everyone will take turns keeping an eye on things.
he said. I raise my glass and toast it with beer, in agreement with my husband. I thought that if they can handle those tasks and understand the foolishness of their actions, it will be a valuable lesson for Robert and Julia.